Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
It was the perfect start for Delhi Capitals, their best ever to an IPL campaign, but they're seeing the season slip away from them. They find themselves outside the top four as they go to Hyderabad to take on the Sunrisers, who are as good as eliminated 10 games into the season. What can we expect from this game? Let's build up to it. On Nexa presents ESPN Cricinfo Timeout, where we have the company of Katey Martin and Ambati Rayudu. Thank you for your time. Delhi, it's gone from so promising to feeling quite under the pump. And you look at the fixtures, the next 3 games are against Punjab, Gujarat, Mumbai, everyone right up there. These feel like 2 points they can't afford to lose.
No, they can't. It's sort of that back end of the tournament, isn't it? You want to have a bit of momentum, and they started off so strongly through the middle phase. They've sort of just pegged back a little bit, like you said. But I think what happens when you get to this phase with the tournament, people start working out what you're trying to do against them, what your typical strength are as a bowling unit, especially, which is where they've dropped off. That I think people have started to work out how to score against them. And then Rahul has been a little bit inconsistent of late as well in terms of batting, and so much of their batting has relied around how he goes and being the linchpin of that. So I think that's probably a couple of areas for me where they need to look to improve on.
You can perhaps pin down DC's initial wins to a lot of individual brilliance. Stark took a 5-4 in the reverse fixture. Rahul won them 2 tough away games. Ashutosh Sharma won them the opener. Is one of their bigger problems the fact that they are yet to have a collective outing?
I think so, and also it depends on the kind of wickets that they're getting. If the wickets are generally slow or they are not really good for batting, that's where they have done well, if you look at Delhi. But if they're good for batting, then they don't have the power in their batting lineup to really match up to a lot of other teams. And also Stark and Kuldeep Yadav go out of the the equation when the wickets are flat. So that's where they have struggled. And I think it totally depends on the wicket that is been that will be given at Hyderabad. If it is flat, then Delhi will be struggling. But if it is slow or if it's slightly turning, then maybe they'll be in the game.
Yeah, let's tuck into the bowling in a bit more detail, because that is the bigger part of the problem. If you break down Delhi's season in 2 halves, Kuldeep, Stark, Vipraj, they were all shining in the first 5 games, and it's all gone off the boil a little. And when we talk about pitches and surfaces, they were earlier in the season bowling at Vizag, where they got 2 wins in what were high-scoring conditions. So what explains it?
It's a good question. I don't think anything's necessarily changed in the way that they've gone about it. Sometimes batters just learn what they need to do to be successful against a bowler, and that's the benefit of, I guess, a long tournament as well. You've played against him, you get that experience. I think one thing for me with Stark is that he always steps up when it's a key moment in a tournament. He's the kind of guy that can shift, I guess, the way that a team's going, and I expect him against Sunrisers in the matchup against the likes of Fed and Abhishek to actually go really well. And I think that maybe the ball hasn't reversed as much as what he's used to, and that's a strength of his as well. But yeah, I definitely expect him to step up, especially, and Kuldeep as well. He's got the experience, and you do get lulls in tournaments as long as they are.
Yeah, I think so. And also Vizag, the game that 2 games that they have played there. The second one was an afternoon game, the way the wicket was slow and sluggish. That's where he got his 5-4 with his slow balls, if you remember. I think going forward, Kuldeep Yadav will struggle if somebody uses their feet. If they're staying in the crease and batting, I don't think he'll be put under much trouble. But as ma'am mentioned here, there'll be lulls in the tournament. But this is a long tournament. I mean, Delhi can come back, but the only problem I feel is their batting. They don't have the firepower to really chase down a 220 or sometimes you need to have the power in your batting to set things up as well in terms of a big score, because wickets are going to be slow, but also Hyderabad is going to be a flat deck, if I'm not wrong.
There's always a flat deck though, isn't it, generally?
What are the bigger concerns you see in Delhi's batting?
I think they sort of wanted Fraser McGurk up the top to set the tone, and he did that so well last year. He absolutely took this tournament by storm, and we haven't seen that. He's been in and out of the team, so they haven't got off to that firepower start that we've used to seeing. And when you look at the successful teams in the tournament so far, it's been that dominance from the top 3 or 4. And then that puts that added pressure on KL. If he has the opportunity just to own an innings and he's able to do what the likes of Virat and Shreyas does for their teams, that's when they're in the best position possible. And you don't want Mitchell Starc coming out needing to go have too long out to bat. And I think with the loss of wickets, that's been quite frequent. You've had to have those tail orders bat for a lot longer than you'd like.
Absolutely, and especially if you look at Purell, he's been getting starts, but he's never been able to convert them into big match-winning scores. I think KL needs to come a number up, definitely bat at 3 and control the innings. That's when he'll get a lot more freedom, because when he's batting at 4, then he is always worried about the depth in his batting lineup. I don't think they have that kind of depth. So that's where I feel his mindset will shift if he bats slightly higher up.
All right, let's talk matchups. And Katey has already set us up nicely for the reunion of Mitch Starc and Travis Head. It's almost impossible to think of how a bowler has managed to trouble Travis Head as much. It's almost like every time Starc faces him, he gets him out.
You know what the worst thing is? As a batter, you know that someone's got the wood over you, and you're at training and you're trying to face up to it. You're working out your plans. You get out there in the middle and you go, okay, I've worked on this. You actually mentally try harder against the player that you've got a bad match up to. And I think the way that Starc bowls to him in terms of the bounce he is and the fact that he always is coming back at Travis Head, that's a challenge for him. And we know the skills that he's got when he can get that wobble seam going, when he can get that shape. And well, I love an Australian against Australian. It's the battle that we love, isn't it?
Yeah, and Starc loves Sunrisers. The last 3 times he's played them, 2 of them being the playoffs of IPL 2024, he's been player of the match every single time. Also has a compelling case against Abhishek Sharma. And Abhishek Sharma has quite a few bowlers in this lineup. He's got out to Starc in the final last year, fallen twice in 8 balls to Aksar, twice in 13 to Kuldeep. Delhi have to see that as the game, because with Sunrisers, if you get those 2 openers early, usually it means half the game done.
Yeah, I think so. And that's where the challenge lies for Sunrisers as well. You have to see through that period of Starc initially, and then, maybe just play unlike Sunrisers for a little bit, for about 3 or 4 overs to really handle that. But I think Abhishek, it totally depends on his batting and the kind of mindset that he is in, because he tries to play the ultra aggressive kind of brand of cricket. So I think if he just eps it back a bit, I think he can be very, very effective. It's not like the bowlers get him out most of the times. It's just himself trying to do extraordinary things on a cricket ground, which he does, but his consistency has to improve. And after a good innings in the last game, I'm sure his confidence will be up. I think
it's hard being consistent, isn't it, as an opener in T20 cricket, and that's why Travis Head has done such an incredible job, and Jaswal as well, the way that they've been consistent and scoring at a strike rate as well. And I think they just got behind the run rate in the game against GT, and they did actually get off to a really good start. How they can give class and the best chance of finishing a game for them, for me, is going to be the crucial part against DC.
All right, let's get predictions.
I think SRH for me. SRH, because they have a very, very good game in them in terms of at least a couple of wins. So I think they will go out fighting, and they will go out being proud of the brand of cricket that they play. I think DC will be at the receiving end of SRH tomorrow.
Katey.
I'm going to go DC because I love the matchups, and I also think the SRH bowlers are struggling to adapt to, I guess, what the batters are doing to them. And I think they'll go back to a bit more of a simplistic plan because they've got experienced SRH. But yeah, I just think that there's enough there for Delhi.
That is also the result that will keep the race to the playoffs a lot more interesting and keep Delhi interested. Thank you so much, Katey, Rayudu, for setting up the game for us. 2 big points for Delhi. They can't afford a lot more slip-ups. Will Sunrisers spoil their party?
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Next up.